thought, I bet you know Joe already. Joe's a colleague. He's in your area of professional expertise. You see him on the golf course. You see him at networking events. You like Joe. But the one thing that gets under your skin about Joe is the fact that you see him quoted everywhere. Whenever a journalist, a producer, a blogger needs somebody to quote, be positioned as an expert in your area of expertise, they call on Joe. He's a talking head on TV. You see his articles published. And you go, Joe, why do they talk to Joe? Joe barely passed law school. We do more interesting work, bigger deals, just more complex stuff than Joe. I don't understand why they're calling Joe. Well, they're calling Joe because Joe knows how to be his own advocate when it comes to PR. He knows how to play the PR game. The good thing is you can learn how to do it too, and that's what we're here to do today. We're here to talk about how you can be your own PR firm and the 5 steps to getting the recognition you deserve. My name's Sharon Berman. My company's Berbay Marketing and Public Relations, and we create the visibility and credibility that fuel revenue growth. So good morning, everybody. Just one little housekeeping note. If you hear the phone go mute for just a couple of seconds, it's because I'm probably taking a drink of water. It's not because you've lost us. Anyway, okay, so how to be your own PR firm. Why do we care about this at all? Sometimes people say, I don't understand the value of PR. The value of PR is what we call credibility. How do you increase your visibility and reinforce your credibility? And that's what it's about when you're talking about marketing a professional service. You want to immediately come to mind when there's a need. You want to make the short list, whether it's a short list because it's the end user or a short list when somebody is asking for a referral. You want to immediately come to mind, and you want to become the obvious choice. And how do you do this? You do this by building a body of work that positions you as the expert, that comes from third-party credibility, from being quoted in the media, from having articles published, from being a talking head on TV, by being mentioned by high-profile bloggers. That's the power of third-party credibility, because somebody is saying it about you. You are not saying it yourself. And when people ask what's the difference, for example, between advertising and PR, it's the public relations has that power of third-party credibility, where advertising is something you're saying about yourself. The other reason it's important, there are many reasons, but another reason is because you need to be familiar. You need to create familiarity in your market so that when somebody says, do you know somebody, I need an employment lawyer, or I need somebody who, knows liability insurance, and they give your name, if the person asking says, well, oh, I've never heard of Joe, well, you are behind the ball right away. You're way ahead of the game if they say, oh, Joe, yeah, I saw, he's a guy who's always quoted, or I saw that he writes regularly for this publication, or isn't he the one who's, who's on CNN all the time? It's that familiarity, and because familiarity means comfort, means, okay, Joe is the one I want to call. And it's even more powerful if the person who's asking for a referral asks somebody else and your name comes up again, because when you come up twice, when two different people make a referral to you, it's a done deal. It's exponentially greater than just that one referral. So you want to be somebody who has this body of work that positions you as an expert, that reinforces the fact that you are an expert and substantiates it, and you want to be familiar, a familiar name in your target markets. Okay, so as we go through these 5 steps to become your own PR firm and get the visibility you deserve, there are 3 keys for PR success. And actually, if you've ever heard any of our webinars or heard me talk about marketing, these are the 3 words I use repeatedly. Whether it's marketing or public relations, today what we're talking about is packaging. How do you package what you already have? As you'll see today as we go through, this is not about inventing things. This is material you already have. Once it's packaged, how do you repurpose it? There's a long shelf life today for materials because of social media, because of online, because of just even the real world. How do you repurpose what you already have, and how do you leverage it so that you make everything you do work much harder for you? All right, step one in how to be your own PR firm. Step one is very similar to what you do if you're going to be marketing your service. You're going to say, what's my target market? In this case, we're talking about what's my target media market? Who is the media I want to be targeting? Because it's nice, you know, you want to be quoted, you want to be featured, you want to be appear in places that make sense, that your prospective clients and referral sources are looking at. So the first thing you want to do is put together your, call it media universe, your target media list. You want to think about print, you want to think about broadcast, and you want to think about online, and we call them media outlets. And if I mention the word publication, put it in quotes, because publication to me means online, it means any of these, but it's not literally a print publication. So you want to think about where you want to be. So you have, let's say, the names of these outlets as media outlets of the, you know, the high-profile bloggers and the print publications. Then you want to say, okay, who at those publications am I targeting? It could be a journalist there, a reporter. It could be the editor. It could be the blogger. You want to identify who that person is, just as if you're going after a target company and you want to figure out which executive to go after. Who is it that you want to target there? And then you need the contact information. So you want their phone, their email, their social media, their Twitter address, which is becoming more and more important. So you want that contact information. And in terms of how do you put this list together, how do you decide where? Sometimes people say, I don't know what my clients are reading. Well, if you're in their reception areas, let's say, you see all these publications out there, you know, Cement Manufacturing Today, or you know, Cybersecurity Today. Well, that's a good indication of the kinds of things that you might want to be including on this list. You can ask them, what are you looking at? What's important to you? What e-newsletters do you get? What blogs are you looking at? And then, of course, there's the general publications, LA Times, New York Times, whether it's Fox News or whatever. The other thing is you can also talk to your library, because the research departments of different libraries, whether it's university libraries or the downtown LA library, have resources that can help you identify publications. That's what they do, is they have these publications just are databases basically of media outlets and the different beats that people have and their contact information, and also very, very important, how that person wants to receive information. For example, very, very few journalists will accept an attachment on an email unless it's from somebody they know. Right now, we've even talked with journalists who only want, they want to be communicated with via you tweeting to them. Some still like the phone. Most of them want email. Some want you to follow up. Some don't want you to follow up. So as you put together this database, you want to really be targeting how they want to receive the material, what their beat is. Very important to know, and start following, especially you can't follow everybody, but the ones who are really important to you, start following the kinds of things that they're writing about. And of course, you can also Google and see who's writing about what. So that's going to be your step one, lay your foundation. Okay, now just like in your marketing, you're looking at what does your market want. Here, you're looking at what does the media want, because you want to be able to give that to them. All right, what does the media want? First, they want news. Ideally, they want to be exclusive. They want to be the first one to get it. So if you have great news, you can offer an exclusive to a publication that you really want to be in. They want news. What's happening? Mergers, acquisitions, litigations, settlements, lawsuits filed, whatever is news, that's the first thing they want. Okay. And you have to keep in mind that what their purpose is, what they really want more than this, is they want eyeballs reading what they're writing about, because they need advertisers. And that's true whether it's online, whether print, whether it's broadcast. It's our job to deliver interesting material that other people want to look at. And that's what you have to keep in mind with this. So they want a different perspective. So for instance, if you've been following somebody writing on something in your area of expertise, and you think, but they're not talking about this. They're not talking about the fact that the international convention mentions that you don't have to pay for this or that. That's what they want. That's what they want, is a different perspective. So that's the freshness of that is something that's very important to them. They're looking for trends. Because once again, this helps them be ahead of the curve. If you can bring them a trend that nobody's talking about or very few people are talking about, that's very important to them because it helps make them look good and it makes worthwhile reading material. Forecasts. Forecasts are also very interesting and important, and things that's something that anybody listening here has the expertise to make a forecast. And this is a great time to be making a forecast. We're halfway through the year. What's going to happen in the rest of the year? You know, it's not whether the stock market's going to go up or down, but, you know, is liability insurance going to become more important? Directors and officers, are there going to be more lawsuits, for example? What's the forecast there that you see? And if you even stop to think about it right now, you could come up with a couple of forecasts for the rest of the year. And then there's what we call the hum. The hum is sort of, it's also called evergreen material, all right? It's a lot of times used for filler. It's the kind of thing that people need to know about, and it's part of like the stream of news going by us, but it doesn't have a time, it's not time sensitive. For example, it could be, you know, how to avoid wage and hour lawsuits. It could be 10 things you need to know about project finance. Whatever it is, it's the hum. It may be something I don't need to know about today, but in 6 months I'm going to care about that, you know, how to avoid a wage and hour lawsuit or whatever. So it's this sort of evergreen material that you see over and over, and you know, sometimes I look at these and I go, oh my God, are they still writing about that? But really, it's part of the hum. So, and that's also makes for a great opportunity to be writing about things that you know about that might not be earth-shattering, but are important. Okay, so we have this news stream. Just, you can envision it here. Envision it as a stream flowing across your desk, across the vision in front of you of all this news, all this, you know, from different angles in terms of online, social media, hard copy. And this news stream is going by. And what you want to do is insert yourself into the news stream. That's what the goal is here. How do you get into that news stream? Now, there are different ways to do that. If you have news, that's great. I mean, something that the media wants to know about. That's fabulous. The thing is, that doesn't happen that often, right? You can, if you're a trial lawyer, maybe it's twice a year you have news, and it doesn't mean that it's always good news. So you can't just rely on news. You have to find out how do you get yourself in that stream. And the way to do that for professionals is to become an expert resource, somebody just like Joe that the media goes to because they know he gives them what they want. You want to be quoted by the media. There's that third-party credibility. And another means is bylined articles, by publishing articles that are written as you, with the author being quoted, cited as the author, as opposed to the reporter writing the article. Bylined articles are extremely powerful. They have a long shelf life. You have a lot more control over the content than you do if you're talking to a reporter. And then also, too, the brass ring in all of this is getting a profile or being featured in a publication that's read by your market. So these are the ways you get yourself into the news stream when there's no news. And that's what we work hard with our clients to do, and that's what you can do for yourself. Okay. Step 3. Now, this is all, we talked about packaging. This is all about packaging. When I say packaging, I'm talking about looking around you, what's on your desk, what's lying at your feet. I always envision it as like, what is this material that is right in front of you? What are you working on? What questions have you been asked for the 3rd time this month by 3 different clients or 3 different referral sources that you've never been asked before? And you're sitting in traffic and you're saying, you know what, that's the 3rd time somebody's asked me that before. Nobody's really asked us about that. They didn't ask us about, you know, is it more frequent or less frequent or bigger or smaller? That's interesting. And those, for example, something like that is a trend. You're seeing a trend if it's the third time, and even the second time, that there's a new question asked or a different angle. That's a trend. If you're thinking about what's going to happen the rest of the year, that's part of your forecast. And these things that make for the material you want to be pitching the media, for the most part, are floating thoughts that just sort of float by you. You could see the clouds above. That a lot of times, unless we're mindful, the word of the times, mindful about what these thoughts are, they're gone in a minute. But your job is to capture them so that we can package them and present them in a way that's going to attract attention and get you the visibility that you want. So just be thinking about what it can be. It can be a work product that you can repackage not without breaking any kind of confidentiality. It can be something from last year, a talk you gave last year. It can be a talk that you're going to be giving this year that you can maybe repackage. So just be thinking about all that material. I know everybody listening has reams of material they can work with if they really think about it. Okay, so this is packaging here. And I want to just show you some of the vehicles that we're using here. Okay, here's an example. This is news, all right? It has to do with a lawsuit that was filed. So this is news, okay? Get the press release out, sometimes have a press conference. It's the news that really is, let's say, newsworthy in a sense, okay? It's something that people want to know about. And so what you have here is a press release. It's talking about the news, and the result is just some of the coverage that we obtained. So this would be your vehicle, a press release when you have news. Press releases are not, they're a lot of the time what people think about when you're talking about public relations, but there are many other vehicles, or there are other vehicles, and that's what we want to show you. But if you have news, you just did a deal, you closed financing on a deal, the merger and acquisition, there's a new service line. If it's news, then what you want to do is use a press release. Now, another thing about a press release, another use of a press release in today's world is when you have news that maybe the media isn't really interested in. Let's say, I'm just throwing this out, maybe, or you're not going to get high visibility, you're not going to, it's not going to be in the Wall Street Journal. Maybe you're opening a new office, or it's a new service line that, or something newsworthy to you. Press releases are a great vehicle to put on your website because they help you tell your story. When somebody's coming to your website, or you're posting on LinkedIn, or you're tweeting about it, it's a way for you to tell the story in a way that has some energy behind it. It may not be picked up by the media, but it shows that, hey, there is news here, and we want to tell you about it, and it's a way for you to be, telling what's going on with your firm. Okay, now, when it comes to packaging, probably the main vehicle that we use is what we call a media pitch. A media pitch is a way to attract media attention by providing something thought-provoking. It's a way that we want to attract attention so that you get quoted, or you want the reporter to say, hey, that's an interesting idea. I want to write a story about it, or I'm writing a story about it and I need an expert, or depending on the publication, can you write an article about that because that's very interesting. So there's several aspects to a media pitch. One is that you want it to be thought-provoking, and this goes to your credibility. What we do is when we're talking to clients, we're trying to find the material that we're going to use, that we're going to craft into a media pitch. And what we're looking for, and a lot of time the client won't hear it, but what is the trend, what's interesting, and identify that and put it into a media pitch. And there's several parts of a media pitch. The first, the way we do it, is the first part is that there's a thought-provoking quote about some trend or something going on in the market, or some opinion that the professional has that they're willing to talk about. The other thing is you want to have a little bit about what their credibility is. why somebody should be here. The client represents brands, dispensaries, and cultivators. I mean, you want to talk about your credibility. Why should they listen to you? And then what else can you talk about? So you want to give them some bullet points about what else you can be talking about. Maybe what you're saying, and that the bullet points are really going to expand on your quote that you've started with. And the hope is, the idea is, the goal is that you're going to pique a journalist's attention, and they're going to come back and say, hey, you know, that sounds really interesting. And in this case, it resulted in a story in the Los Angeles Business Journal. So this is the way that you're inserting yourself into the news stream. It's not news. There's not something earth-shattering here, but it's a way of packaging your professional expertise, the thoughts that are in your head right now, and getting it out there so that you can interrupt what's going on and get your share of the spotlight. Okay, and media quotes also, media pitches also can result in article opportunities, bylined article opportunities, or article opportunities where the reporter's writing an article and they're going to quote you. But in this case, we were targeting publications. We were looking for article opportunities in the Middle East. This is on the right-hand side is a publication called Cityscape. It's a new term I didn't know before. It's called MENA, Middle East and North African publication. And they look for investors. This company looks for investors in the Middle East, and so they want visibility there. And we targeted publications there via the media pitch, talking about what's interesting, what's going on, why you should listen to what this client has to say. And they came back to us and said, that sounds interesting. Would they be interested in writing an article? Now, articles can take time. That's why, and some people like to write their own articles. Some people don't, and that's why there are ghostwriters out there. We ghostwrite for some of our clients. There are other people who do that. So I don't want you to think that you have to write your own material. You might, for example, what we'll do is interview somebody and then draft the first draft, and then somebody can edit it. And it's so much easier to edit something, even if it's not 100% on target. It's so much easier to edit something than it is to sit down at a blank screen. So one of the results of a media pitch is an article opportunity. Once again, interrupting the news stream, getting yourself in that stream. And the reason that we like articles is because they have a long shelf life. You can do reprints of them. You put them out at conferences. You post them on your website. You put them on LinkedIn. You have more control. And there is an aspect of control when you're talking with the media. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but when you're writing an article, you are, for the most part, controlling what you're saying, as opposed when you're being interviewed by a reporter. And I'll be talking about that in a little bit more, but that's one other reason that we really like articles, in terms of the control you have. And the other thing is, if you're quoted in an article, you may be one of 3 people quoted, and you can repurpose that, but you can't showcase yourself as well as if you've written the whole article. Okay, now the brass ring a lot of times is let's get featured, so they're just talking about us. And that's a combination of things. It's when journalists get to know you, they see what you're doing, they've seen a flow of different things from you, and this front cover was a result of different press releases, media pitches, something where the journalists that we've been working with said, hey, yeah, no, that would be very interesting. We would like to feature Jackie Patterson. So it's a cumulative effect that you're also after here. And that's also, that cumulative effect is what happens when reporters get to know you. You've been sending them pitches, and you may not have just sent them a pitch, but maybe 3 months ago you did, and they still have that in their, call it their Rolodex. And they're writing a story when they need you. That's when they call you and say, hey, you know what, you sent me something, I'm doing a story, can you comment? It's this cumulative effect that you are after when you're working with the media. Okay, so step 4 is making contact. You have your media pitch, you have your news release. What do you do? How do you get it out? we don't tend to use wire services. We like to create tailored media lists, just like we talked about in the beginning, where we decide, we look at who would be interested in this, who does it make sense to target in terms of what's going to work for the client, because also that way we can follow up. If we know who we're sending this release to, this media pitch, and that way we can follow up, which you can't really do when you're sending it through the wire because it goes to everybody in the world. There are times when that makes sense, but for the most part, we like tailored media lists. So the key to follow up is, number one, in your email, just like with any email, it's the subject line that's going to get somebody's attention. You want to make it energetic, you want to make it intriguing so that journalists get millions and millions and millions of emails. So you want to be thinking about, how do I get their attention? If you do get hold of them, you're calling, you're following up, and you're having a conversation, you want to ask them if they're on deadline, because a lot of times they're getting ready, they're filing a story or something's being put to bed, and they can't talk. So you want to ask, are you on deadline? And you want to be positioning yourself as a resource, meaning you need to be willing not to be quoted, to provide background information if they don't really know. A lot of reporters are generalists, so they're jumping from one subject to the next, and they don't have a lot of background. They need background. That doesn't mean that you're going to be quoted. Now, if you're positioning yourself as a resource, it's much more likely that they're going to either quote you this time or come back to you again when they're doing another story. So you want to be positioning yourself as a resource there. And just be open to the fact that you may not be quoted. Okay, if they're calling you, it's really important that you're responsive and that you get back to them right away. Ask them what their deadline is. Ask them, for instance, if they want to do an interview with you, can you give them questions? Can they get questions? Do they give you questions in advance so that you can be thinking and formulating your thoughts? And you want to be thinking in sound bites. You want to be thinking in things that are pithy, memorable, short, succinct, not a lot of legalese, not 3 pages of a response in an email that's more of a legal brief. You want to be thinking about how can you distill down your thoughts into something that's going to really work for them in terms of other people reading that material. Now, the other thing you want to be thinking about, too, when you're talking with a reporter, and why you really want to be, if somebody calls you, you might want to say, may I call you back, so you can get off the phone and really be thinking about your thoughts and your communication points. Because you are the communicator. It's up to you to communicate the points that you want to make. And when you're talking to a reporter, the only thing you can control is what you communicate. And once you've said it, it's out, and it's up to the reporter, not that they're doing anything malicious or anything like that, but it's like they have that material and they're working with it in a way that makes sense to them. And so that's why you'll hear so many times that it was taken out of context. All right? And it wasn't done because they may not have understood the context. So you have to control the communication as much as possible, and you have to know that once you've said it, it's out of your control. Now, one of the good things is, because sometimes we've had clients come back and when they've been quoted and we think the quote's fabulous, they'll go, oh, I really don't like it. I don't like the way they took it. I had a 30-minute conversation and this is what they pulled out of it. The good thing is that this is all about repurposing, meaning, it's great to be quoted. It's great to be interviewed on TV. It's good. That's fabulous. But it's what you do with it that gives you the marketing power. Meaning, you're quoted, let's say, in the LA Business Journal or Wall Street Journal. Well, I know how many times it's late at night. I haven't looked at the journal online. I'm tired. I just put it in the recycle pile. You may have had a front page article. It may have been a glowing article about you in the paper today, but I didn't see it. So it's incumbent upon you to let me know about that and magnify the results, repurpose the results. So here's just one example. This attorney had an article in the Daily Journal, all right? So what do you do with it? That's great, but once again, unless he tells people he has tremendous expertise in a niche area, how do you tell people about this? What you want to do is put a blurb on the website saying that somebody that, you know, this lawyer was quoted and this is what the subject was, and just pull a little bit, just a little synopsis so that somebody knows that he was quoted, that he has the credibility of being an expert because somebody thought he knew what he was talking about and they were willing to put it in a publication. Okay, social media, it should go on your LinkedIn, you know, Facebook, tweet it out, put it in your newsletter, create a hard copy, and this is the body of work that I was talking about that shows when somebody goes to your website or they go to your LinkedIn, they see, hey, this guy's an expert, this person's an expert. Look at this substantive material. He's been quoted over and over. Clearly, he has that third-party credibility that makes him an expert, and this is the guy I want to hire. So it's the packaging, the repurposing, and leveraging that makes public relations so powerful. It's also more important today because it feeds the marketing monster. Sometimes we've had prospective clients come to us and say, you know, I'm not really interested in media, but I really would like a newsletter, let's say, or I really want more presence via social media. That's fabulous. What are you going to feed that monster? You want to feed it content, as everybody talks about today, content, but the content that's the strongest is the content that has that third-party credibility, that has the fact that it was published somewhere. It doesn't have to be in the most visible publication, but that somebody felt it was worthwhile to publish and to stake their own reputation on, making you the expert. So today, material that's come through the media machine, the PR machine, is even more important because you need to be feeding this, I'll call it the marketing monster. Okay, so those are the 5 steps in terms of how to be your own PR firm, to do exactly what Joe does. He's figured it out, and that's what he does. And I'm sure you all have material that you can package, and you all warrant increased visibility. And if you put these 5 steps to work for you, you're going to get the visibility that you deserve. Thank you so much for listening today. My name's Sharon Berman. I want to let you know about our next webinar, which is going to be on Thursday, June 18th. We're going to be giving a recap from the Legal Sales and Service Organization Rain Dance Conference, which is a great conference. It's going to be in Chicago, and please join us. We'd love to give you the scoop on what happens there. If you have any questions, please email me, berman@berbay.com, or give me a call, 310-405-7345. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.